My advice is, if you're trying to keep people out of legislatures and saying other people aren't news like us, don't write stories about the producers. Why, you ask? Because you're just admitting that even our cameramen are more popular than you. If you were paying close attention to National Post this week, and I know you probably weren't, so let's pretend you were, you may have noticed that they wrote an article about our recent trip to Traverse City, Michigan to cover one of Trump's final rallies. It entails how a journalist for a far-right news site, Rebel News, lost a court challenge to the quarantine order. Well, first of all, far-right, come on, man. Even you can do better than that, guy who wrote this. I'm sorry, like most, I'm not familiar with you. Now, yes, we could mention that National Post is mad because maybe someone started some sort of website that we definitely won't mention asking people to cancel their subscription. Or because even with all their money from the government, their YouTube channel has barely more subscribers than my channel. I'm just one guy. And like a quarter of one of our cameramen's channels. We won't mention that at all. But being sellouts isn't exactly the broader point here. It's the precedent that's being set that unless you're one of the government-friendly news outlets or journalists, you don't qualify for an exemption. CBC can send their journalists to Washington and it's considered essential. But us, no, we don't fall in the 80% of travelers who are allowed to skip quarantine. At the request of the CBC, the Canadian Border Services agencies collected data and calculated that 5.3 million quarantine exemptions were given out so far under the COVID restrictions. Of course, they go on to note that COVID cases from international travel has ranged from just 0.4% to 2.9%. That's astronomical, I guess. Tammy Jarbeau, Media Relations Officer for Health Canada, says that only those who are free of COVID-19 symptoms are exempt when they cross the border, which is, I guess, is 4 million instances. Of course, there's no tests, no temperature screenings, no doctors, no nurses at the border. Just say you're good to go, and unless you're on Rebel News, you don't have to quarantine. We would have had better results if we went through Roxham Road, it turns out. Better healthcare, too. Workers, quote, critical to our economy and infrastructure can do their job after crossing the border, she adds. You know, media is so critical to our economy, but only if it supports the status quo. Interesting how that works. So the CBC can send its reporters to Washington, and the National Post can write articles celebrating that our producers have to quarantine, maybe in hopes that we stop producing better content than them. But that's what you get from government-paid employees. You can't expect much more. Now think about it. How long does it take for your driver's license to come in the mail? How slow is the lineup at Service Canada? Correlate that directly to the questions that are asked of Justin Trudeau or Joe Biden. These are government-friendly reporters.
You've been reluctant to comment on the words and actions of the U.S. president, but we do have Donald Trump now calling for military action against protesters. We saw protesters tear gas yesterday to make way for a presidential photo op. I'd like to ask you what you think about that, and if you don't want to comment, what message do you think you're sending?
Mr. Biden, what flavor did you get?
We got one vanilla, one chocolate, but I wanted to get what we call black and white, so we're going to move it. In other words, we're going to split it.
Collect your checks, never step outside the safe zone, accept your lockdowns, watch your favorite businesses go out of business. The media doesn't really care about all this. They get paid, they don't have to follow any of the rules, and they will say more lockdowns while they are subsidized by your government, while you also pay for them simultaneously. They will watch as your friends' businesses close and say how great it is and how necessary this all is for yours and everybody else's safety. But hey, CBC Gem will still have their all-female sketch comedy show, which is very progressive, of course. Baroness von Sketch. Amazing. Nothing wrong with a little tax benefits, nothing suspicious about that. Now, who decided who gets the money again? I think that was a guy named Bill Morneau. I don't think he got to keep his job, though. My advice is, if you're trying to keep people out of legislatures and saying other people aren't news like us, don't write stories about the producers. Why, you ask? Because you're just admitting that even our cameramen are more popular than you. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and smash that like button. And definitely don't go to cancelthepost.ca. Don't do it.